right. Hi, everyone. We're
Hi.
here today. Hi, Charlene is Customer
Hello.
Service Manager, and I'm Nicole, Director of Marketing from Pandia Press. And we are quickly approaching a new school year. It's summer, but not for long. And we are inching to our back to school season. So I know, Charlene, you get a lot of questions. You get chats all day and emails, and we've seen a lot of questions that come up in the Facebook groups too. So we just thought it would be pretty cool and simple to answer some of those here for you so that it's a resource. You can watch it, come back to it. So let's jump in and we'll do some of your most frequently asked questions towards the end. But I thought it would be really helpful if we just give a quick overview of the three main lines of products we have in books and curriculum. So, Charlene, you want to take over and
Yes,
no,
sure.
good.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with history, I think. So our elementary series for history is called History Quest, and it's newish to us, and it's super fun. We're so excited about History Quest. Right now we have History Quest Early Times, which is going to be ancient history. We have History Quest Middle Times, which is kind of that middle time in history up till about Elizabethan time in history. We have History Quest United States, which is a cool deep dive into the history of the United States. We are in the very beginning stages of writing History Quest Modern Times. That's not available yet, and we don't quite have the timeline on that, but that is going to be coming out in the future. History Quest is great for those elementary age students. For History Quest Ancient, Early Times, and History Quest Middle Times, we suggest that that's for grades 1 to, what do you think, Nicole? What's the upper age on 1 to? I know people use it up to middle school.
You could, because any of our curriculum, you can. There's so much out there as far as literature, and our books do suggest other literature to read or videos to watch, websites to go to. So you could really supplement to sixth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade.
Definitely, for sure. With when we get to History Quest United States, it's a little bit slightly older grades. We suggest not starting with that until you've got about a third grader, just because we're starting to get into a little bit more mature topics, a little bit tougher topics to talk about, like the Trail of Tears and 9/11, and some things that are a little tougher for those younger students.
And civics as well.
And
So
physics,
you
yes.
want your kids to be just a little bit older to really grasp uh,
Mhm.
our government is structured, the three branches of government, process of voting, the Supreme Court, all of that. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, and it's such a cool combination, I think, our History Quest United States that has that history of our country, but also that civics that really, gets kids thinking about where they live and how they will be involved, as they're growing and everything. So that's really a cool thing. Some of the really cool things about History Quest, just there's a quick overview. There's a few different parts to History Quest, and just like most homeschooling curriculum, you can use things whichever way works for your family. So History Quest, the main part of History Quest is a chapter book, and it has, each chapter has historical fact information, but it also has this really cool part that are called history hops. And this is where it's a storytelling thing where your student gets to kind of pretend that they're a time traveler, and they go back in time, and they realize they're on a boat, or they realize they're somewhere in the history that they just learned about in the rest of the chapter, and they're actually, thinking about experiencing what they've just learned about, maybe meeting someone famous, maybe meeting someone not famous. And I think that that's one of the coolest parts about
It,
History Quest, are these history hops where it's just really engages students.
oh yes, my son he'll be in fifth grade, and we'll be doing U.S. next year. But so we've done ancient and middle times, and that was when we first started using ancient times. I think we'll talk about this in a little bit, but we got downloaded a sample, try before you buy.
Mhm.
And that was his favorite part, and to this day, 3 years later, he makes me do the voice. He likes when I do it, which
Yep.
is you have to do it in this history
Oh,
hop.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
We're gonna make a video. You all see that later on. I'll have him do it. So check our Instagram. But it's one of the he loves it. It's his favorite part. So
Mhm.
yeah. He doesn't want to grow out of that. But he will because then we'll get to History Odyssey, which I'm sure you're about to go into.
Yeah, and just really quickly about our history quest. So the other part of history quest is the study guide. And some people just get the book and they just read the book for just stories and, maybe bedtime stories. But if you get the study guide that goes along with each of our history quest books, then you have a full history curriculum for a year. And it has all kinds of cool stuff in it. Each chapter in the history quest book has corresponding activities to do. It has extra things to read. It has extra things to explore if you want to go even further. It has some map work and coloring pages, worksheets. It has all kinds of things that go along with your chapter that you've read. Or if you're if you don't feel like reading, we also have an audiobook version of that chapter book, so that's really great. Or if you're in the car and you want to just learn about some history, you can let that go too. So that it makes a really robust, rigorous history curriculum for those elementary age kids. If you get both parts and you really get to dive in deep to those parts of history that it's
The study
studying.
guide is where you will find those other resources, such as suggested literature. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
So then moving on to History Odyssey, which is our little bit older student. So this is kind of when you're moving into maybe middle school, maybe early high school. History Odyssey is when your student is kind of making that transition to being more independent in their working. They don't need you to do every single reading with them. They're starting to learn what it means to do research and dig into something that they're reading, get out those main topics, and really, understand what the main ideas of things that they're reading. So this is it's not as hands-on as History Quest, hands-on a different way. It's not like you're, building things out of clay, but you're doing a lot of writing and a lot of reading and really starting to make that transition into those skills that middle school, high school students are going to need as they're starting to think like a historian. So we have 4 History Odyssey study guides. Now, it's slightly different in that the main spine or main book that your student would be reading with History Odyssey is not a Pandia Press published book. We have created these study guides. So there's History Odyssey Ancients, History Odyssey Middle Ages, History Odyssey Early Modern, and History Odyssey Modern. So these are written to be 4 years of world history, and you go through the study guide. There are some activities and some little researchy projects as you're moving along, and they start out kind of slow, learning how to outline. Then by the time you move through and you're going up to History Odyssey Modern, your student can really be independent and really digging into all those connections between different things that were happening in the world and how this happened, but look, this is where it came from. This is what happened before. Um, so it's really great for building a lot of really great skills that really translate across a lot of topics, not just history. As part of our History Odyssey um, grouping there, we also have this really cool book that I wish had been out when my kids were this age, but it's called History Compass, and it's written to be about a semester long, and it's not about a specific time in history, but it's really working on diving into those skills that you need to think like a historian and read and write and research like a historian. It talks about things like looking at your resources or your resources and seeing if you are finding resources online. Especially, I mean, kids are having doing research online. Are you finding good resources that are solid? And it talks about ways to know um, if you're finding good information or something that's maybe biased. And it has great projects that really allow your student to kind of pick things that they might be really interested in to
Yeah.
dig deeper into.
One of the activities that's a through line throughout that book that I think is so cool is the history of an object. So,
Yes.
like you said, instead of purchasing one history compass for ancient times or middle times or what have you, um, the student gets to pick what era, and they can find something around their house, they can find something in their town, or they can find something that exists. Let's say a famous painting, and they only see it online, but it exists in a museum halfway across the world. And they do the activities throughout the book on that and
Mhm.
really get to dive in. But in researching that, like you said, they get to learn critical skills. How
Mhm.
can you vet your resources?
Mhm.
How can you accurately portray that? What can you learn from? There's a whole section on maps. What do maps tell us
Yes.
based on when it was written, who was writing the map?
Mhm.
Was there bias, or maybe they didn't have the understanding
Mhm.
of the region yet? It's very interesting. So
Mhm.
I love that book. One thing I just want to go back to History Quest one more
Mhm.
time. One thing that is also I really appreciated in History Quest is that each level incorporates world history. So every continent except maybe Antarctica is not represented,
Mhm.
cultures and communities.
Yes.
And especially in History Quest US, there's a lot of care taken to lift up unrepresented voices,
Absolutely.
um, people, women, African American culture, indigenous peoples, even in your own community, finding
Mhm.
out who they are and connecting with them. Um, uh, I'm trying to think of all the wonderful. We're about to do U.S. history, so I haven't worked all my way through it. But people in the disability awareness and rights communities is in there, so it's wonderful, inclusive text.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so then, are you ready to go on to science?
Yes, let's jump over to science.
Real
So,
Time Odyssey.
yep, Real Science Odyssey is our science line, and we have 2 parts. We have level 1 and level 2, and so a lot of times people kind of are confused about which one should I get, which where does my student fit in? Level 1, is kind of, again, our elementary line, and in this case, we do have some of the science books are a little more complex than others within, level 1. For example, physics, physics level 1, we suggest that is for grades 3 to 6 probably. And then if we look at something like our Real Science Odyssey Life, which is our very beginning biology, it's kind of an intro to biology, kind of a gentle nature study type of intro to biology. That's great for our youngest students. Maybe K through 2 would be great. So we do have a nice little curriculum map on our website, and also on each of our product pages it will tell what grade range is the best for these books. But our level 1 books do cover all the way from kindergarten up to 6th grade, um, if you wanted to do that. So they do, each book does have a range of ages, and that's not like hard and fast that you need to do those grades, but it's a good jumping off spot to look, is my student within this grade range? And then the next step after looking and finding one that where your student fits in grade wise or age wise is to then download our free try before you buy samples, which we have of all of our products. And that will give you a really good idea because there are several lessons. I know, especially with science. I know I did this when I was homeschooling my kids, but people do this all the time where you download the sample and you can actually do several of the lessons with your student and see, is this working out? Do they like doing this? Our Real Science Odyssey books are very hands-on. There are activities and labs and experiments almost every single lesson, sometimes several different activities to do. It's very hands-on. It's not something that you want to do if you're afraid of getting your hands dirty, sometimes literally dirty. But really for kids, especially for younger kids, it is so cool to see them learning through actually like physically manipulating things and touching things. It's a great way to learn. It's a great way to learn how to be a scientist, which is why our books are written this way. You're really getting to do it. You're really getting to be a scientist, and it's
Yeah.
it's a great way. It's a great way for them to learn that.
Right.
That's
Yeah, we just finished chemistry for 4th grade, and I love that it goes deep into one topic,
yes.
because of that. Through chemistry, we could really learn scientific skills, scientific learning, but it was so the book is a course. It's not just a book of random experiments.
Mhm.
There's a sequence, and we do have pages in there that shows recommended if you're going to do it 2 days a week or 3 days a week. There's a nice little chart. Um, but it does build as you go through the course. I
Mhm.
just wanted to point out it's not one of those 101 great experiments, right? And
Right.
so it's really building solid understanding at a child's level of chemistry. I mean, my son was learning about atoms and electron fields and molecules and I didn't learn that until I think I was probably in upper middle school or high school. And so these big concepts are really brought down to into the concrete, right? Hands-on, as you said, and very making, models of an atom out of marshmallows. And I think
Mhm.
that's another good point. These are not hard to find items. It's very easy. There's a list within the book that you can do at the beginning of the year. Um, it's very usually most of the materials are found around the house. It's
Mhm.
easy to prep because I've had parents ask me, "Is it open and go?" Well, in a sense, I mean, you're going to want to read a day or two ahead in case you need white vinegar or marshmallows or something like that. But it when you open a lesson, for today, it actually has some text that you will say to your child a little bit lightweight, a few sentences, a little paragraph, read this, and then have them do this. There's some poems in the chemistry book. There's some fun pieces like that. So, if you want to add copy work, you can use that for copy work. You could use it for other things. And so it is a version of what I think of open and go. It's
Mhm.
easy as long as you've got everything in your kitchen. Um, you just open it, you read this part, your child works on the experiment. It was very light lift for how much he was learning.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and we do have a partnership with Home Science Tools that has the boxes, and we'll talk about that more in an upcoming video, so that you can easily order a box through them. Um, if you don't wanna run around and put everything together, but it's pretty easy,
Yeah.
our supply
Yeah.
list.
Yep. I always got my own supplies when I was going through them with my kids, and yep, I was able to find pretty much
Right.
everything. A few things I had to order online, but yes,
Yeah,
most.
and just one quick question before we move on to level 2, because I hear we get this a lot. What's the difference between life and bio 1, biology 1,
Yep.
and, which one's right?
Right. So life, level one, like I had mentioned, is a very like gentle nature study type of introduction to biology. So this life covers plants, animals, and the human body. There's kind of a chunk on each of those topics. And so we suggest this for our youngest learners, kind of K through 2 would probably be best. You can do a little bit older than that. You might want to add a little bit of challenge in for them, but it's just kind of a basic, like, learning to explore the world around you and getting curious and digging into things a little bit. Bio one um, is kind of a step up in rigor. So that's going to be kind of grades 3 to 5 is what we recommend. So bio 1 is actually it's a full bio course, but for those younger grade ranges, of course. And so this is covering, plants and animals, of course, but it also is talking about evolution. It's talking about ecology and bringing those big concepts that are so important in all of science to a nice accessible way for those younger students to start to understand, start to think about those topics. So this is, yeah, so it's a step up. You could definitely do life with your younger student and then do bio one, and it wouldn't feel like a total repeat. It would be digging deeper on those things that you had kind of scaffolded and learned before. So
And you could do mixed ages in a family, right, with both of those?
you could those two don't align perfectly as far as what you're talking about, which now bio jumping ahead, not to be confusing, Bio 1 and Bio 2 were written by the same author, and she did keep that in mind. It was Blair Lee, and she did keep that in mind that there are families that are definitely gonna be having a student that's maybe right in that grades 3 to 5 range, and then maybe a student that's in middle school and is maybe 7, 6, 7, 8, maybe even ninth grade. So those 2 books, Bio 1 and Bio 2, those topics do align right along, and you could work through both with students of those 2 ages. Um, what I found with level 2, we'll kind of transition to level 2 here for a second. What I found with my kids with level 2 is we did a lot of the stuff together just because I'm a sciencey person, so that's I was really interested in, like, looking at the microscope things and their labs they were doing. But Bio 2, just like with our history series, Bio 2, Earth and Environment 2, which will be coming out, and Astronomy Level 2, those are kind of moving towards more independence with your student, and they'll maybe be doing more of their reading by themselves. And so if you do have a student that's in working through Bio 1 and one who's working in Bio 2, your older student can, be off doing some of their things independently, maybe while you as the teacher need to be working more with your younger student on Bio 1.
Got it. Oh, okay. Oh, I think that's it on the sciences, if I can I think that's it on everything. So, of our 3 product lines, so we'll just jump into some frequently asked questions that we get from all of you on just in general about how to order, what's right for your family, all of that. Okay, so Charlene, you kind of already touched on the order that you should go in, that there's some flexibility.
Mhm.
There's some age ranges already on the website. I don't know if there's anything else to say on that. I know order and then how long does it take are 2 of the big popular questions.
Okay, and so how long it takes kind of depends. It depends on the particular book, and I can go through some of them real quickly, but it also depends on your family and how you're moving through the course as well. So, example with, let's say, Real Science Odyssey Level 1, those courses are all written to be mostly used. We figure people are using them like twice a week, like maybe you're doing science twice a week. And if you do that, Bio 1 and let's see, Bio 1, life, chemistry, physics, those will all take one school year or like 36 ish weeks to get through if you're doing it twice a week like that. Earth and Environment Level 1 and Astronomy Level 1 are a little bit different. Just as a really quick history of these, they used to be one book that was 1 year long. It was called Earth and Space. When that was updated, the author realized there was a lot more information in both of those topics that probably should be touched on. So when that got expanded, got a little bit longer than 1 year. So it was broken into two. So our astronomy level 1 book actually is about 18 weeks. So it's kind of like a semester long course. And then Earth and Environment level 1 is about 28 weeks of material, which is kind of random. A lot of families do still put astronomy level 1 and Earth and Environment level 1 into 1 year and kind of just condense it, move them, go through things a little bit more quickly to get that into 1 year because they do go nicely together to learn about, Earth and things around you, and then also add in space, which I find most kids love to learn about space anyway. So,
Yeah.
um, as far as our level 2 books, biology level 2 is definitely a full year of material. That is a biology level 2 is a very rigorous course. It is amazing. It's a lot of material and it's a full year. You're going to get a full year out of that for sure. Our astronomy level 2 is again about a semester long, so about 18 weeks of material. Let's see. Do, um, history. Should I talk about history length of time as well, or?
Sure, sure.
So all of our history courses, History Odyssey and History Quest, each one is written to fill out one school year as well. So in History Quest, I know especially there's a very nice schedule laid out for you each week. If you and you can follow it or you can not follow it. I mean, that's why we homeschool, right? So that we can kind of do our own thing. But there's a really nice schedule laid out each week of, these are the if you follow this and do these things each day of the week, you're going to get through this in a school year. Some people move faster, some people move slower, but those are all written with kind of the idea in mind of being a full year long.
Yeah, and I've heard some families do that, um, when they wanna go deeper and build out. I've heard a lot of people say that about History Quest United States
Mhm.
recently, because there is so much you can learn, especially if you are here in the US and if you add in field trips and explorations in your own community or state. And it's just, it is written for a year. But
Mhm.
again, like you said, you can do whatever you want with it. If
Mhm.
you want to do, I mean, there's whole eras you can dive into. Like we were talking earlier about World War II, you could really go a
Mhm.
lot into that if that's what you're interested. You can go a lot into, you can put, um, you know, every piece of, I think that's what I really appreciate about History Quest is it does work for many different ages because it depends how much you supplement.
Mhm.
And I'm a US history freak, and I love it. I'm gonna try really hard to do it for a year, but I have seen some families on our Facebook group say they intentionally expanded it so that they can learn more about all the different cultures in the United States and the peoples and then really add on a lot of civics, so
Yes, and you mentioned the Facebook groups. I think that's really important that we talk about that because we do have a Facebook group for our Real Science Odyssey and for our History Quest and our History Odyssey. They're private groups that are on Facebook, and you can find them off of our main Pandia Press page. They're just full of really cool homeschooling parents, people that have been on there a long time and have been through all the books and newbies. And it's just a really supportive, cool environment. All three of them kind of have a slightly different vibe, but they're people share, pictures of projects they've worked on, or, if you've got a question about, well, how did you do this? What did your whatever project look like? I don't get this. People are just really helpful, and it's just a really cool learning environment where you can kind of meet up with other parents and see what they're doing, see what cool
yeah.
extras they might be adding in. So that's a really great resource.
And it's also a great resource if you're still learning about the books and you haven't bought you it's not a requirement, you don't have to currently own them,
Mhm.
but if you have questions, if you just wanna see, the work and the discussions, so please feel free to find them on our Facebook page and join, and also Instagram.
Mhm.
Um, Uh, there's a lot of content there. Another thing I should just say is that once you become part of the community and if you've bought some of our books, you will start to we have these great emails that go out when there's special recognition months like Women's History Month, Black History Month, certain scientific like what around the eclipse, we have resource emails which we send to all of
Uh-huh.
our families and that includes extra reading, websites, great videos to watch, did you know fun facts, all of that. So we really have a lot of ways you can learn about us as well. And you'll notice here we're not doing flip throughs. We're not showing the books on the screen. Um, that will be other videos, but there are a lot of great families that have used our products that are out there on YouTube and they have those videos out there. But our try before you buys, as Charlene said, every single book we have, and this isn't one or two pages, it's a significant sample
Mhm.
from each of the books. So you could really see, including the table of contents.
Yep.
So those are just some extra ways to learn about things there. And I think that's probably about the questions that we hear a lot from all of you. Charlene, is there anything else that we've forgotten? Um,
I can't think of anything, but please feel free to send. You can send us emails. We've got lots of information of ways to contact us on our website. Also, you can contact us through Facebook or Instagram if you have any questions. I'm always around to answer questions. So,
I did remember one question.
mhm,
Uh, one question that we get from, well, actually, two, but let's just do this one first.
mhm.
Is can I use it with my co-op? Or I have a
Oh,
group of friends that want to do this. I want to get together with folks. How do I do that?
yes. That would be something you would want to contact me. And again, my email address is on the website. We do offer a license to copy, an LTC, as an option for co-ops. And so, what this allows you to do is make physical copies of the student pages, so that you can use them in a co-op. So sometimes this is a great option, and sometimes it makes more sense for you to have your families purchase their own copies of the book. So whichever way works better for you. Um, but the license to copy is a cost-effective way if you have a good way to make copies. You just need to contact me so that I can. Um, it's it's currently, and I sometimes prices change on things, but it's currently 61.99, I believe, for a license to copy for up to 15 students. After those 15 students, it's a $5 per student. So it's really a cost effective way, if you've got a group of students
It is.
that you're meeting with. It needs to be a group that meets in person because of the physical copy that you need to be making. And that's just because of copyright. We don't have any kind of license that allows you to send a digital copy of any of our books between families. Um, so it needs to be a group that meets in person if you're using this particular license. But yes, it's always cool when groups use this. A lot of groups and private schools, several different kinds of groups, definitely use our books and definitely use these licenses, um, to have a great way of utilizing that.
Yep. And you mentioned groups. And so that made me think of a lot of states have programs now where there's funding. I'm in California. So in California, there are public charter schools that are homeschool support schools. So you're homeschooling through a charter and you're allowed to use a certain amount of state funds. And there are requirements. It has to be aligned with the grade, it has to be secular. And we didn't really cover that, but we'll have a separate blog post and a video on what is secular and how our products are all secular 100%. So a lot of the state requirements has to be secular, it has to be to grade level, and obviously it has to be in California. We do have a social sciences and a science requirement. And so the question, I guess I've answered the question, but yes, our products are used by many students in charter schools. I know some schools in my area for homeschoolers have our products are in their libraries. You can purchase our products through your school's ordering system because they are secular and they're perfect for these grade levels. So,
Mhm.
but if you have any questions on how to do that, just let us know. Or if you have a school and you don't see our products there and you'd like to, we can be helpful in connecting with the staff at your institution to figure out how to make that happen.
Yes, definitely. And there are several other states that are
Mm.
beginning to have similar, projects where there is money available through the state for homeschooling families. They're kind of different depending on the state, and we're kind of gradually getting online with all of these different programs so that you're able to purchase our products using their money. Sometimes it's through the program, sometimes it's a reimbursement thing. Again, states are all different, but that's another thing. If you don't see us on the list, but you would be interested, um, contact us, let us know, and we can try to start figuring out how to get connected with the state's program, or if you can contact someone at your state. we we're gradually working through all of that. It's interesting with all the different programs that people have going on, but it's really cool that's happening.
Great. Perfect. So that's all the common questions we get. But if you have more, like Charlene said, message on one of the social media platforms or email us, and I will do some walkthrough videos of curriculum. But in the meantime, before those get up, again, go download some Try Before You Buys or go check out some YouTubers, and that's it. Thank you very much and have a happy summer and a happy back to school. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.